Have you ever noticed how the hardest working people you know are often the most broke? I am talking about people putting in 60-hour weeks and grinding every single day. They show up early and they leave late, while doing everything the world tells them is right. And yet somehow they are still living paycheck to paycheck in this expensive world of 2026. Meanwhile, there is someone else who seems to work less and stress less while having way more money. They have more freedom and more options than you could ever imagine. Here is the secret that nobody in school or the mainstream media will ever tell you. Working hard does not make you rich. Owning things does. By now we have analyzed thousands of wealth-building stories, and the pattern is always the same. Today I am going to reveal the exact shift that separates people who trade their life for money from people who make money while they sleep. Once you truly understand this concept, everything about your financial future will change forever. Let us look at a typical Monday morning in the current year of 2026. Your alarm goes off at 6:30 in the morning. You get ready and grab a coffee that now costs $7 because of the inflation we have seen lately. You fight through traffic and sit at a desk or stand on a shop floor for 8 to 10 hours. You work hard and you are a valuable person to your company. At the end of the month, you get paid a decent salary of perhaps $5,000 or $6,000. But here is the trap. To get that same money next month, you have to do the entire cycle all over again. Same alarm and same commute, with the same stressful hours at the desk. If you stop showing up for even a week, the money stops coming immediately. Now let me paint you a completely different picture. Imagine someone who owns a small apartment building with 4 simple units. Each tenant pays $1,500 a month in rent, which is the standard rate these days. That is $6,000 coming in every single month without fail. Even after paying the mortgage and expenses, they are clearing over $2,000 in pure profit. That money shows up whether they go to work or not. It shows up whether they are sick or healthy. It shows up while they are on vacation or sitting at home watching a movie. The asset works for them, so they do not have to work for the money. We have been sold a backwards story about how wealth works for our entire lives. The old narrative said to study hard and get good grades to land a stable corporate job. It told us to climb the ladder and retire at 65. In 2026, that plan is not just old, but it is incomplete. That plan has a hard ceiling on how much wealth you can actually build. The people who break through that ceiling are not working harder than you. They are simply playing a completely different game. Let us break down the 5 reasons why owning assets will always beat having a job. The first reason is what I call the time prison. When you have a job, you are literally selling blocks of your life. That is the transaction where you give them your time and they give you paper currency. It sounds fair on the surface, but you only have a limited amount of hours. There are only 168 hours in a week. You need to sleep for about 56 of those. That leaves you with a very small window to earn. Even if you worked every single waking hour, you would still hit a maximum limit that you cannot break. This is why even highly paid doctors and lawyers struggle to become truly wealthy. Even at $400 an hour, there are only so many hours you can bill before you burn out. Contrast that with a real asset. A rental property does not have a 40-hour work week. It generates income 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. A stock you own in a great company does not clock out at 5 in the evening. That company is doing business around the world and making money while you sleep. Your income is no longer capped by the physical hours in your day. If you make $70,000 a year at your job, you are earning about $34 an hour. To make an extra $10,000, you would need to work almost 300 more hours. But if you own an asset that flows $1,000 a month, you gain that wealth with 0 extra hours. That is not just a small difference in math. It is a completely different way of existing in the world. The second reason is the leverage trap. When you have a job, you cannot use leverage to grow your income. A bank will never lend you $50,000 just so you can work more hours. They would laugh at that request. But when you buy assets, the entire financial system is built to help you. Banks will compete to lend you money to buy real estate. You put down $50,000 and the bank lends you $200,000 more. You now control a $250,000 asset with just a fraction of your own money. If that property goes up in value by 10%, you did not just make 10% on your money. You made a 50% return because of the leverage. The richest people in the world, like the billionaires we see in the news, use massive amounts of leverage. They do not have billions of dollars sitting in a checking account. Their wealth is in assets that are often bought with borrowed money. This creates a multiplier effect, where $1 of your money controls $10 of assets. You can never do that with a simple paycheck. The third reason is the tax game, which is often the most frustrating part. When you work a job, you pay taxes on every single dollar before you even see it. The government takes its cut of 30 or 40% first. You get the leftovers to pay for your life and your family. But when you own assets, the rules are designed to reward you. Take real estate, for example. The government allows you to deduct something called depreciation. Even though your building is likely going up in value, the tax code lets you pretend it is wearing out. This means you can earn thousands of dollars in cash flow, but pay $0 in taxes legally. When you own stocks, you do not pay taxes until you decide to sell. The asset can compound for decades without the government touching a single penny. And if you never sell, but instead borrow against your assets, you might never pay taxes at all. This is not a loophole, but the way the system was built to encourage investment. The person with a job is taxed at the highest rate, while the asset owner is taxed at the lowest. The fourth reason is the inflation shield, which is critical in 2026. Inflation is a silent thief that eats the value of your paycheck every single day. If you get a 4% raise, but the cost of living goes up by 6%, you actually got a pay cut. Most jobs simply do not keep pace with the rising cost of groceries and rent. Your salary is almost always behind the curve. Assets, however, often benefit from inflation in a massive way. When inflation goes up, the rent you charge goes up. When the price of everything rises, the value of your property and stocks rise too. But if you have a fixed-rate mortgage, your biggest expense stays exactly the same. Inflation actually makes your debt cheaper to pay back, while your income grows. Inflation works for the owner and against the worker. Think about someone who bought a rental property 10 years ago. Their mortgage payment is locked in at a rate from the past, but the rent they collect today has doubled because of the economy. Their profit margin has exploded, while the average worker is struggling to buy eggs. The fifth reason is the exit strategy. A job has zero resale value when you are finished with it. You cannot sell your job to someone else when you want to retire. You cannot pass your job down to your children so they can have a head start. The day you stop showing up is the day the money disappears forever. But assets outlive you. They create generational wealth that can support your family for decades to come. This is how wealthy families stay wealthy through multiple generations. They do not teach their kids to be good employees. They teach them to be owners of things that produce income. The entire social system is designed to keep you in the employee mindset. Companies need workers, and the government needs reliable tax revenue from paychecks. From the time you are 5 years old, you are trained to be a high-performing cog in the machine. But you are being trained to make someone else rich while you take the crumbs. A job is a great tool, but it is a terrible destination. The mistake most people make is staying in the vehicle of a job and never getting out. The goal should always be to use the job to buy your freedom. Let us look at David, who is a successful manager in 2026. David earns $120,000 a year, which is a great salary. He lives in a nice house and drives a luxury electric car. But David has no assets outside of a small retirement account. If David lost his job tomorrow, he would be in financial ruin within 4 months. He is on an expensive treadmill that he can never stop running on. Now let us look at Rachel, who also works in marketing but earns only $90,000. 5 years ago, Rachel bought a small duplex instead of a fancy house. She lived in one side and rented out the other to cover her costs. She used the extra money to buy another small property and some index funds. Today, Rachel has $1,500 a month in passive income. Her net worth is double what David has, even though she earns less from her boss. If Rachel lost her job, she would be perfectly fine because her assets cover her basic needs. Rachel has options, and David has anxiety. The difference is not their intelligence or their effort. The difference is the structure of their finances. In 2026, you have to stop seeing your paycheck as the goal. Your paycheck is the fuel that you use to buy money printers. A rental property is a money printer. A dividend-paying stock is a money printer. A small digital business is a money printer. Once you have enough money printers, you no longer need to sell your life for a living. This is the shift from being a consumer to being an owner. It is about understanding what your time is actually worth. If you are 45 or 55 years old right now, you might feel like it is too late. But the math of compounding works even faster as you get older if you are disciplined. The first $50,000 is the hardest to save. But the second $50,000 comes much faster because your money starts to help you. Do not focus on climbing the corporate ladder to reach the top. Use each rung of that ladder to step off and buy a piece of the world. The system will not change for you, so you must change your approach to the system. Start by looking at your monthly spending and seeing how much is going to things that lose value. Cars and clothes and expensive meals do not print money. They consume the money that your time worked so hard to earn. Redirect that capital into things that grow while you sleep. The goal is not to be a millionaire on paper. The goal is to have spendable income that does not require your presence. That is true freedom. And that freedom only comes through ownership. Start today with whatever you have. Buy your first small asset and watch the snowball begin to roll. Because in the end, the rich do not work for money. They own the things that make money. And there is absolutely nothing stopping you from joining them. Take control of your future today. The time prison is optional if you have the courage to own the keys.